With Paramount now added to Binge Watcher, what better way than to kick things off by travelling all the way to the Wild Wild West. So saddle up and get ready for the ride, because we're taking things country with Season 1 of Yellowstone. Is the hype around Yellowstone all it's made out to be? And is Season 1 worth the watch? In the rugged and untamed landscapes of Montana, Yellowstone follows the powerful Dutton family, owners of the largest ranch in the USA. This sprawling property is a symbol of wealth, power, and tradition, but it's also the focal point of relentless conflict. Season 1 introduces John Dutton, the formidable patriarch, as he battles to protect his family's legacy from those who seek to take it. Facing threats from land developers, rival ranchers, and the nearby Native American reservation, the Duttons must navigate a web of violence, betrayal, and shifting loyalties. The core conflict revolves around the Duttons' struggle to maintain control over their land. As political and personal battles intensify, the family is drawn into a ruthless fight where morality is often blurred. The Duttons must confront not only external enemies, but also internal fractures that threaten to tear them apart. Yellowstone is more than just a family drama. It's a modern western that explores themes around power, legacy, and survival. The show captures the clash between what's old and new, what's traditional and progress, as it delves into the family complexities and the lengths one would go to protect what's theirs. We're getting 9 episodes that are roughly made up of between 45 to 60 minutes in length. For the plot and storyline, it's something that I can only describe as being a thrilling watch. I cannot believe that I have allowed myself to let this show go all the way through to season 5 and not even watched it. And I tell you what, I binged watched the hell out of that first season. I think I watched all episodes in a day. It was that good. The show in season 1 is all centred around how history is meeting modern day. There are older people that hold older values, and then there's the more modern person coming into the fold that's trying to change everything. It's all about money, control, power, and the people of Montana, specifically the Duttons, are fixated on not allowing the modern people and modern world affect what they know and love about their history. And what demonstrates this really, really well, I thought, in the very, very beginning, early on in the first episode, as we're opening up, is there is an argument in court between Jamie, who's one of the Dutton sons, and another lawyer, and they're arguing the case of land preservation versus public expansion, need versus desire, and it sets the show up perfectly. As we start to move further into the season, we start to see different people on the chessboard, all of which the Dutton family have to go up against. You've got the land developers, which are pushing their modern day agenda, rival ranchers who are pushing their agenda for land and power, and then you've got the Native American reservation who believe, and rightly so, that the land is theirs. So their agenda is to take back what is theirs. And what's interesting is they're doing it using casinos to take from the people that took the land and used their money to buy back the land. So it's quite clever, to be fair. And all of these different people on the chessboard that are trying to maneuver against the Duttons is what the Duttons have to navigate through. Now, the Dutton control of the land is very strong, but these threats are so strong that the family will need to unite in order to face and navigate against these people that are on the chessboard. For me, this show has completely had me hooked. From the moment I started watching it all the way through to the end of season 1, I couldn't stop. The story kept me interested and excited. I was emotionally invested, and ultimately it was just causing me not to be able to stop watching it. It was binge watching in its finest. It gave me a similar feeling to other TV shows that I just rate highly, and that sense of anything could happen just had me on the edge of my seat. And it's just something that I absolutely love from TV shows. When it comes to plot holes, the one that was noticeable for me was Beth's involvement in the company and it being a little bit underdeveloped. When we're first introduced to Beth, there is a meeting going on in an office, very, very corporate. And then we switch scenes to her working at her desk and she's been summoned by her boss because he wants her to come and close this deal that he's struggling with. And my God, you understood her just like that. Her portrayal is just power, ruthless businesswoman. She gets stuff done. And as much as I've enjoyed her portrayal and even her entrance into the season. It doesn't give you a backstory as to how she made her way in the professional world. You know, how did she get there today? You do see that with other characters, as small as some may be, but you still get that development factored in. Or even still, just how did she gain such influence? You can figure it out based on how she comes across in her portrayal in the very beginning, yes, but that's something that's worked into the character. You don't just end up like that. And it seems like her high-stakes involvement in big business decisions seems disproportionate to what is revealed around her actual experience. And that then leads into some questions about the realism of her character. Even still, in season 1 that I've seen so far, she is a brilliant character. And maybe with all that being said, the fact that her portrayal was just so strong just simply makes up for that. Because it wasn't a gaping hole, it was just something that could have been added and could be seen as a plot hole. But she is a brilliant character, absolutely brilliant. But I would have wanted to see a little bit more backstory with her. Now when it comes to inconsistencies, the main one for me is all centred around Lee Dutton. There's a clear lack of development and build with this character, especially with someone that's so highly involved in the day-to-day running of the ranch. Early on in episode 1, there's an exchange going on between Jamie and John. Lee is then introduced from getting out of a car to crack on with his day and get the ranch work going. He's interrupted the exchange between John and Jamie, and it's evident that John is wanting Lee to succeed him in the beginning, or so we think, because we're introduced to Lee as being the eldest son to John Dutton, and clearly one of the most involved in running the ranch. However, his character is really underdeveloped in comparison to the other Dutton children, and after his death in episode 1, he's barely mentioned. Now the reason this is an inconsistency for me is the sheer lack of impact his death has had on the family dynamics, particularly in the immediate aftermath of the series, which seems inconsistent with the show's emphasis around family, loyalty, and the importance of the ranch. Now, there are a few lingering questions for me, but only a few. Why does John Dutton have favouritism towards his children? And what is the cause of this individually? And why is Casey Evelyn Dutton's favourite of all the children? Now, this series stars Kevin Costner as John Dutton, Kelly Riley as Beth Dutton, Luke Grimes as Casey Dutton, Wes Bentley as Jamie Dutton, Dave Annable as Lee Dutton, Kelsey Asball as Monica, Cole Hauser as Rip Wheeler, Gil Birmingham as Chief Thomas Rainwater, and Danny Houston as Dan Jenkins. Now, who are the ones to watch in season 1? As always, we need our choices for the ones to watch. There is going to be a long list, but the ones to watch for me are John, Beth, Casey and Jamie Dutton, along with Rip, Chief Rainwater and Dan Jenkins. Now, who is the one to watch out of the ones to watch? Now, for me, this was a really difficult decision because all the characters brought something special to the show, but it kept in line with the story and it made it that much more entertaining. But for me, the chosen one to watch is John Dutton, with Beth Dutton coming in at a very close second. Now, the reason for John is that not only is it Kevin Costner, not only is it Kevin Costner in a Western movie, but the portrayal that this man had just gave everything. Emotional connection, relationship dynamics that he has with his children, his sheer authority, his willingness to stop at nothing to protect his family, protect his ranch, ultimately protect what is his. Old school values that he carries and doesn't care about this modern world that's coming at him. Doesn't care about the people that are on the chessboard. He might care, but he comes across as not showing the care because he is willing to stop at nothing to defend and protect. And all of that around his character, and it's only season 1, makes it such a thrilling watch. Now, when it comes to character development, this aligned perfectly with what the show was trying to deliver on in this season, which was all around setting up and showing us the world that we're about to embark on, as well as the character relationship dynamics that are at play. I would say that it is setting the stage because they clearly knew that they were in this for the long run. And obviously we've got season 5, so they definitely knew they were in it for the long run. To start with, John Dutton, the father and leader of the family, and the ranch. A man who bears the weight of generations on his shoulders, fighting to protect his family legacy and the land that defines them. But as enemies are closing in from all sides, how far will he go to safeguard and protect what's his, and at what cost? Now, John's portrayal, it's the reason that he's the one to watch. It was an excellent portrayal. A balance of an overprotective father, but also someone that is really defining old world values. We see the people on the ranch that he works with, as well as his family and those closest to him, almost drive a sense of fear within them because they don't want to disappoint him. He gives off that vibe. But he is direct, he is straight down the middle, but he is also fair. And he does show care for his family and those around him on the ranch that are all supporting in the day-to-day activities of the ranch. And he also shows that it's just clearly not his first rodeo. He's got sheer experience with having to fight this battle to protect the ranch from many enemies in the past. And it's obvious that he's been taught the ways of what needs to get done and how to get it done. There seems to be little plot twists or little problems that crop up, and every time they do, he's very strategic in being able to analyse and think. He will take his time to think on what needs to get done and the decision that he needs to take. Accept that decision and power through to see it through to the end. I think the thing that perfectly defines how far he is willing to go is that every single time someone chooses to leave the ranch, a member of the community that does the day-to-day running, they are taken to a cliff top to get killed. And he has enforced that way because he doesn't want the ways of the running of the ranch or any secrets to get out that cause the ranch to become vulnerable and the land taken away. Because we have to remember that it is the biggest ranch in Montana that he owns. So for me, with this character, honestly, willing to stop at nothing to protect what's his. Now with Beth Dutton, I meant what I said. Clear second, very, very close to being my favourite character. A strong businesswoman that I can only describe as being the handler for her father, or at least one of them. Beth is a woman that is forged in fire, unapologetically ruthless in protecting her family and the legacy that defines her. But beneath her hardened exterior lies a heart that is just scarred by betrayal and loss. How far will Beth go to shield those she loves, and will her relentless pursuit of vengeance ultimately destroy her? Now, we've discussed what we saw in the beginning of episode 1. But as we progress throughout the episodes of the season, Beth is just diabolical. She and Dan have an interaction on a numerous number of occasions where she needs to mess with him and cause disruption because Dan is trying to buy the land around her father's land, Yellowstone, so that he can disrupt the day-to-day runnings. He's also partnered up with Chief Rainwater. Beth is all over this. She meets him at a bar in their first interactions and pretends that she wants to have some sort of affair. And actually it leads into completely the opposite. But then also ends up having an interaction with his wife. From that interaction, what we know about Dan's wife is that she is completely and utterly bored of Montana. And enter Beth. Her strategy is simply to just have loads of fun because she can see that Dan's wife is completely bored out of her skull. So what Beth's doing is just causing complete disruption to Dan's life, making herself an absolute headache for him. And that progresses to get more and more severe. I would say that Beth is very, very similar to her father. And what I mean by that is that she is willing to stop at nothing to protect what is the family's. But also, she is not doing it just to protect the family. Her drive in all of this is whatever John Dutton, her father, says to do, she will do, without question. She also has quite a humble side when it comes to Casey, because she recognises that Casey is the favourite of the children. But what you might expect from that is some sort of ill feeling towards her brother, but actually it's the complete opposite. She's willing to sacrifice and defend to the point where she will just simply hand over the ranch to Casey after the passing of John Dutton. Casey Dutton is what I would describe as the chosen one, but sees his family as a bit of a curse, wanting to stay away from them. And the nail in the coffin that actually saw Casey leave the ranch and commit to it was when he met his wife Monica, and Monica falling pregnant, with his dad having disapproval all around this and wanted Casey to get Monica to get rid of the baby. Casey comes across as a man split between two worlds: the brutal past that he can't escape and the family legacy that he just can't ignore. As he's drawn back into the Yellowstone ranch, Casey must navigate the delicate balance between protecting his own family as well as living up to the Dutton name. Will he find peace, or will the weight of his choices pull him down even deeper into those family dark struggles? Now, Casey is the clear favourite of all the children in the Dutton family. In the beginning, when we're introduced to this character, we see him living on the Native American reservation with his wife Monica and his son Tate. Every single day seems to be a struggle for them, whether it's money problems or gun violence or some person just causing them trouble to take and nick stuff from them. Every single day there is some sort of problem with him and the character and the family. Now, he is so stubborn. He has made his choice of getting away from the family because of his father's disapproval. Completely get it. But his life that is shown in this season is one that is a real struggle. Now, I'm not saying life on the ranch is easy, but it's definitely going to be easier than what he's going through because they've got the numbers, they're well protected, they have a level of protection on that ranch, and there's work for him to do. And also one day he will inherit that ranch. Now, Casey comes across as being both capable of evil and good, seeing his family as the evil and his wife and son as the good. But the thing with Casey is that at the end of the season, he does give in to going back home because him and Monica have sort of split, and what he now has as an objective is to build something for his son to pass on to him. I have a funny feeling that this is actually going to be good for him. I don't think that, even though John Dutton is portrayed as, this evil man, I don't actually think that it's going to be a bad idea for him to go back to the ranch, because I think he'll be a little bit more protected there. And I think that his family will mould him into the man that he's going to be. When it comes to Jamie Dutton, this is the Harvard lawyer of the family. The person that protects the family and the ranch from a legal standpoint with anyone that is coming to attack. He is renowned for his job and his credibility is very, very strong. However, he is the least favourite of the children. And that is evident in the portrayal. In the first instance, we see Jamie coming out of that court case that I mentioned earlier. He is trying to tell his father, but his father is acting very, very cold in his portrayal towards him. That's only one instance. But in other instances as well, his father has got a clear disliking for him, and we don't know why. The other side of it as well is that Beth hates his guts. I don't know what it is about the dynamic, and I'm sure will be covered later on in the other seasons to come, but there is a clear disliking towards Jamie. Casey, I think, he does love him. Lee, I'm not too sure. But Casey definitely does. So I'd be interested to see later on in the seasons, I'm sure, what the whole backstory between this hatred or disliking of him really is. For me, Jamie constantly comes across as wanting to seek his father's approval. But the problem with Jamie is that he can't put his family ahead of his own ambition, which does come across to his father and sister. But again, I don't buy that that's the real reason. It really feels like there's more to this story. And I am definitely hopeful that we're going to see it in the second and third or fourth season. I don't know when, but they definitely will close this gap. Now, Rip Wheeler, the absolute right-hand man to anyone. He is the right-hand man to John Dutton, but I mean, what a brilliant right-hand man he is. Rip has got an interesting backstory, and we're brought into the fold maybe at the midpoint of the season. As a child, his father killed his mother and his brother, and he goes on the run. Now, John is a livestock agent who helps the police to find him. Once finding him, gives him a lifeline, takes him in and shows him the ways of the daily runnings of the ranch. Fast forward to adult Rip. He is not just the right-hand man, but he is the guy that runs everything on the ranch. He's the second in command. Now, Rip comes across to me as the living and breathing embodiment of someone that demonstrates the word loyalty. But I can't help think, and I don't know why, I just can't. It just feels like it's being set up to go that way. But I really can't help think that there could be a little bit of a plot twist to come in maybe seasons 2, 3 or 4, maybe even 5, where that loyalty is tested. Now, when it comes to visuals, there's one that really stood out to me the most, and that is the Dutton family symbol that is imprinted on to humans. This Y symbol represents Yellowstone, and this is what they imprint the livestock with, but they're putting that on humans. What I found really interesting about this mark is that the people that go to live on the ranch to help run the ranch on a daily are either imprinted with this or they're called wranglers. If you're imprinted with the mark, you're there to stay. You're in it for life. If you are there as a wrangler, you're important for the day-to-day running, but you're not as special as the people that get the imprint. And the brand is interesting because it was covered off in the latter stages of the season, and if it wasn't, it was definitely going to be on one of my lingering questions. But the people that they go after that have that imprint are people that are given a second chance. Now, this illustrates them keeping the old ways alive, and it also plays into the narrative of season 1. And it comes back to that very first court case in the opening part of episode 1 for this season, where they're discussing that need versus desire, preserving versus wanting to basically modernise, and people stuck in the old ways versus a modern people wanting and welcoming change. When it comes to the cinematography, like other great Western TV shows and movies, I feel that they've kept things pretty consistent and also added an element of something new into this mix. We get blurring in and out, landscape shots but moving with a still picture, landscape shots of the surroundings of the valley, very country and western. And the thing that I thought that was really cool, which I had to rewind because I couldn't believe that I'd seen that type of cinematography before. It was really, really good. Beth is walking head on into the camera, and then the camera sort of come behind her to show her walking away. They've introduced camera work that is to be expected and has been seen before, but they've also added an element of something that's fresh and new. And that fresh and new is particularly around that Beth scene that I just described. When it comes to the entertainment value, I have to say, I have not been this hooked to a TV show in a very long time. I thoroughly loved this show. I could not recommend it more. And I cannot believe it's taken me this long to watch it. And I am thankful that I've now got to see it. The suspense that is just surrounding this TV show is insane. The possibility of anything can happen is brilliant. I mean, a brilliant example of this is the car scene with Jamie and Beth. Beth has gone to terrorise Dan, and she's called Jamie to come and pick her up because she can't drive, because she's too intoxicated. After Jamie's picked her up, they're making their way back to the ranch, but they continually bicker, argue and everything. They are fully going at each other. Out pops a gun by Beth, and Beth is pointing it at herself. Cut scene into the car driving, and then all of a sudden, bang, and Jamie slams the brakes, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my god, Beth has killed herself, when actually she hasn't, as it cuts back into them inside the car again. I have to say that I have absolutely loved season 1, and I cannot wait to watch season 2. This show has almost made me have to delay releasing another episode of Binge Watcher because I wanted to just power through, but I had to call it and stay true to the delivery of the content for Binge Watcher. Overall, season 1 has been an absolute success. The plot and storyline is something that I can only describe as being a thrilling watch, adding suspense to the narrative, with a true Western show having that anything could happen type mentality. I thought the character development aligned perfectly to what the show was trying to deliver in terms of its narrative, setting up and showing the world that we're about to embark into, as well as the character relationship dynamics. I thought the visual and cinematography followed consistency to other great Western TV shows and movies, whilst also adding their own sauce to things. And when it comes to the entertainment value, Yellowstone feels like an absolutely brilliant success, and for me it ranks right up there with its peers in this genre. I give season 1 of Yellowstone 4.5 out of 5 buckets, meaning it's a binge watching blockbuster. If you've been watching the show, who's your favourite character? Mine, as you know, is John Dutton, with Beth Dutton coming in a very close second. But let me know yours in the comments below. As always, don't forget to smash a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and follow us on all social media to stay up to date with the latest content. If you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more. I'm Matthew, this is Binge Watcher. Thanks for binging with me.